Hello everyone and welcome to the Headteachers desk. Today I want to talk about how you can work effectively with your governing body as a new head teacher. As I'm preparing for my next governors meeting, I thought it would be helpful to go through a few key essential points that you should remember when working with your governors. Okay, so let's dive in. The first thing I think a lot of people overlook when they think about working with their governing bodies is that the relationship between a head teacher and a chair of governor. I remember when I was looking at schools in order to consider whether I should apply to be a head teacher there, and I was told a really important point at that time was to choose my chair of governors as carefully as to choose the school that I would apply to become a head at. And I think, in leadership programs, training, you don't often hear that. You don't often hear people talk about how important your relationship as a new head teacher or as a head teacher with your chair of governors is. So I just want to give you an example from my personal experience when I was applying to be a head teacher at my first school. I remember talking to my mentor about what kind of school I wanted to apply to, what would attract me to a certain school community, so on and so forth. And having been to the potential school to visit and having discussed the school journey with the chair of governors at that time, I went back to talk to my leadership mentor about what I had found out and whether I should apply for that school. And my takeaway was, the chair of governors that I was going to work with potentially was an experienced school leader who had been former head teacher for a number of years, over 25 years, I believe at that time, who was also the local authorities governance school leader, also a member of the National Governors Association, so the NGA. So clearly this chair of governors was highly experienced, highly expert in the field of governance and school improvement, and So I talked to my mentor about it, and he asked me a question whether I would like to work for someone like that in my first headship. He didn't say not to apply, but his reservation was that, would this person be having too high expectations on me, or would this person be too critical? Would this person be, having been, having had all those experiences, would they not be too micromanaging, of me? And I thought about it and I said, no, that is exactly who I would like to work with for my first headship. I wanted to have someone with a wealth of knowledge and experience that I could tap in to learn, to grow as a leader. But I also wanted someone who set out the standards of how it should be done. I wanted to learn as a new head, I wanted to learn how to do things properly. I wanted to make sure that I had that really high quality guidance. So I know that, many of you might not find that to be your cup of tea when you apply for a leadership position. But to me, that's exactly what I wanted. So I applied to the role, and I was successful. And this chair of governors ended up being a really key person in my career, in my leadership development. And through working with her, I am so grateful to have experienced that high quality leadership that I was searching for. And the person really helped me to grow as a leader holistically. So it's really important, the relationship between the chair and the head teacher. So those of you who are aspiring to headship, please do choose your chair of governors as carefully as you would choose the schools that you apply to. So that's the first key takeaway, really. So those of you who are already in post as head teachers, well, congratulations. So please do make sure you take the time to establish a really positive working partnership with your chairs of governors if you haven't done so already. Because this person, not only will they be, challenging you, be a critical friend, but also they will be your source of support. They would be your confidant. They would be the person that you would go to when a crisis happens, and it does. So there we go. So that's the first point. The next point I would say is, to be very clear with operational and strategic leadership. And I think it's really important that, as a head teacher, you understand where the boundary is, and, so that you can maintain that positive partnership with your governing body. So some governors become too involved, not because of any malice. Some governors just don't quite understand their role and their responsibility. So it is really important that you have that clear understanding of what's strategic and what's operational leadership. What is it that, governors should be working with you on, supporting you, challenging you, and what is it, that they really need to relinquish that responsibility to you and your school team. So be very clear of what operational and what strategic leadership looks like, because without that clear boundary, there might be issues that you will come into further on in your leadership journey. And I did experience that from, at the beginning of my headship. Some governors, through their enthusiasm and keenness to help you and support you, might overstep their role as a governor unintentionally. Okay, so that's the next thing. The other thing is that, you need to understand your governors and you are sharing accountability. And in order for your governors to have that accountability really clear, you've got to be transparent with the information you're given to your governing body. You've got to be, very honest. You've got to basically share the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because you've got to think of your governing body as your accountability partner. They, at the end of the day, governors sit at the level of leadership in the school. If you think about Ofsted terms, leadership and governance come together. So they are your accountability partners. And in order for them to do their jobs, of being accountable and of holding you to account, you need to provide them with information about where the school is, what is it that you're working on, the identified barriers that you are going to want to tackle together, finance, etc. Okay, so you've got to share that accountability. Some head teachers might think that the accountability sits with them and solely with them. Actually, that's not the case. In order to work effectively with your governing bodies, you've got to understand that actually all of you have that shared accountability for the school overall. Okay, so there we go. That's just a quick video for me to share with you some of the key tips that I have learned over the years of how to work effectively with my governing body. And if you have any further tips to share with fellow watchers and listeners, please comment below. And as always, if you enjoy the video, please click like, share with other leaders, and yes, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Goodbye for now.